I found out my parents had spent my entire college fund while standing in line for graduation photos. The fund I'd watched grow since I was 6, every birthday check, every savings bond, every family sacrifice, was gone. Where did it go? A 2-month European cruise. They posted the pictures on Facebook with captions like once-in-a-lifetime adventure. While I was working double shifts at the grocery store, saving for textbooks that would never be bought. When I confronted them, they didn't even look guilty. My dad said, "Family money is family money." My mom added, "Your brother's grades are slipping, you should help pay his tuition instead." Let that sink in. They drained my future for a vacation. Then asked me to bankroll my brothers. That night, I didn't cry. I started planning. If they wanted to treat me like an ATM, I'd show them what happens when the account closes permanently, with interest. Because this time, the lesson wouldn't cost me a degree. It would cost them their reputation, their finances, and their favorite son's golden pedestal. My parents built our entire lives around how things looked, not how they were. From the outside, we were the perfect suburban family, 3-bedroom house, matching holiday sweaters, annual Christmas cards with quotes about gratitude and hard work. Behind the photos, though, everything was about reputation. Mom loved to remind the neighborhood that she worked too hard to live modestly. Dad talked like success was a stage performance, not a goal. People respect what they can see, not what you say. So they bought new cars every 2 years, hosted barbecues with borrowed money, and smiled through the overdraft notices that arrived the next morning. Then there was me, the responsible child. Honor roll certificates taped to my bedroom wall, part-time job since I was 16, never missed a curfew. And then my younger brother, Evan the miracle baby. He couldn't keep a C average, but somehow he always got what he wanted: the newest phone, a gaming laptop, a car the moment he turned 16. Whenever I asked how we could afford it, my parents said, "Don't worry, your college fund is safe." Your grandparents made sure of that. For years, I believed them. But little things started to feel off. Dad joked about borrowing from the fund during tax season. Mom hinted at reallocating it for home improvements. Once, when I needed a deposit for a scholarship trip, they hesitated, just for a second, before transferring the money. It didn't seem like much at the time, but that hesitation stuck with me. Our family was polished on the outside, but underneath, it felt like we were running on credit and denial. And deep down, I knew, if something ever forced them to choose between appearances and responsibility, between me and their image, they'd choose the mirror every time. I just didn't know how soon I'd be proven right. When I was little, my mom used to call it your golden ticket. She'd say it while smoothing my hair before school, her voice soft and proud. "All those hours Daddy works? That's for your future, sweetheart. Your college fund is locked away safe, just for you." It became a sort of family legend. Every time I aced a test or brought home a certificate, they'd remind me, "This is why we're saving. One day, you'll make us proud." The college fund wasn't some casual savings account. My grandparents had started it when I was born, depositing $10,000 into a trust that only my parents could manage until I turned 18. Every birthday check from relatives, every Christmas envelope, even half the money from my summer jobs, all of it went in there. My dad liked to tell people, "We're a family that plans ahead." And for a long time, I believed him. We weren't rich, but I never doubted that they were responsible with that money. Mom kept a binder labeled Education Future Plan, color-coded and full of notes about scholarships and tuition projections. She'd show it off at family gatherings, bragging about how discipline is in our blood. When I was 15, my guidance counselor called me a shoo-in for any school I wanted. I remember coming home excited, telling my parents that I wanted to apply to UCLA. Mom gasped dramatically, "California? That's expensive, but that's why we've been saving." Dad nodded, "Don't worry about the cost. Just keep your grades up, and your future's paid for." That promise became fuel. While other kids coasted through high school, I worked, part-time cashier by day, tutoring sessions at night, and weekends volunteering for college application credit. I even skipped parties to save on gas money. Every dollar mattered, every sacrifice meant something. And when my brother Evan turned 16, I remember asking, "So, will he get a college fund too?" Mom laughed. "We'll cross that bridge later. For now, we're focused on you." That night, I felt something like pride. I was the one who would make all their sacrifices worth it, the success story they could parade around the neighborhood. What I didn't realize then was that my success story was already being rewritten, one credit card swipe at a time. Because while I was dreaming about college, They were planning their dream vacation. And one day, I'd learned the hard way just how much a golden ticket is worth when your parents decide to cash it in. Graduation morning felt like everything I'd worked for had finally paid off. The air was warm, the gym smelled faintly of flowers and hairspray, and my mom kept crying every time someone mentioned scholarships. She told everyone, "Our baby's off to college, full ride or not, she's ready." I remember standing in line for senior photos, clutching my cap, when my phone buzzed, a notification from the bank app I rarely checked. It was supposed to be a feel-good moment. The college fund transfer was scheduled for that week, and I wanted to see the number one last time. The account had always been stable, hovering near $82,000, thanks to my grandparents and years of savings. When I logged in, my stomach dropped. Balance, $3.76. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I refreshed, logged out, logged back in. Same result. Then I noticed the transactions. Multiple withdrawals, large ones, over the past 2 months. Names of luxury cruise lines, hotel chains, international transactions. $12,000, Princess Cruises. $3,400, Santorini Villas. $8,700, airfare. I couldn't process it. I actually laughed out loud, that nervous kind of laugh when your brain refuses to accept reality. After the ceremony, everyone gathered for pictures outside. My dad was bragging to my uncle about the importance of teaching kids financial independence. My mom kept posing, tilting her head so the light hit her necklace, a necklace I'd never seen before. Then my phone buzzed again, a Facebook notification. Mom's new post. Airplane emoji, finally living our dream. 2 months across Europe, Italy, France, Greece. Hashtag once in a lifetime, hashtag we earned this. I stared at the screen, my face frozen in the middle of a smile for the camera. The timestamps matched the withdrawals. My college fund hadn't vanished. It had paid for their once in a lifetime adventure. I didn't say anything that day. I smiled through family photos, hugged relatives, and thanked everyone for believing in me. But my chest felt hollow. Every congratulations hit like a punch. That night, when I got home, I opened my laptop and checked the account again. The money was still gone. The last note in the transaction history read: transfer authorized by joint custodian, G. and L. Parker. My parents. They had literally signed away my future, and posted pictures about it. I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I just sat there, staring at the balance until my screen dimmed. For 18 years, I thought they were teaching me responsibility. Turns out, they were teaching me how to catch a thief, politely. They came home 2 days later, sunburned, smiling, and carrying duty-free bags like trophies. Mom kissed me on the cheek, still glowing from Santorini, and said, "You should have seen the water, just like a postcard." Dad dropped his luggage by the stairs and sighed, "Finally, we did something for ourselves." I waited until after dinner to say anything. The table was set with the souvenirs they'd brought back, cheap keychains, a bottle of wine, and a framed photo of them kissing under the Eiffel Tower. I slid my laptop onto the table, turned the screen toward them, and said, "Can you explain this?" The online bank statement glowed between us. Dad squinted. "What's that supposed to be?" "My college account," I said quietly. "Or what's left of it." Mom's smile faltered. "Oh, sweetheart, don't start." "No, you start," I cut in. $82,000, gone. And every charge matches your trip. Flights, hotels, cruises. You used my college fund. For a moment, the only sound was the clock ticking above the fridge. Then Dad leaned back, exhaling through his nose. "Family money," he said flatly. "We all make sacrifices. You're not a kid anymore, you'll understand when you have a family of your own." "Sacrifices?" I repeated. "For a vacation?" Mom's voice turned sharp. "We needed it. Your father's health hasn't been good, and we never get to live. We'll rebuild the fund later." "When?" I asked. She hesitated. "Eventually. You can work part-time during college, lots of kids do." I felt my hands trembling under the table. "You mean, if I can go to college?" That's when Dad stood. "You've always been so ungrateful. You think this family revolves around your future? You're lucky we've given you what we have." And then Mom delivered the line that would burn itself into my memory forever. "Your brother's grades are slipping. Maybe it's time you helped out. He deserves the same chance you had." I stared at her, searching for a trace of guilt. There was none. They had emptied my college fund, and now they wanted me to get a job to pay for my brother's tuition. Something inside me went quiet, the kind of silence that only happens when disappointment runs out of room and turns into resolve. I closed the laptop slowly. "You're right," I said. "Family should help each other." Dad gave a satisfied nod. "Good. Then we're on the same page." I smiled faintly. "Oh, we are." What they didn't realize was that I meant it, just not in the way they thought. Because from that night on, I wasn't their obedient daughter anymore. I was their auditor. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just switched gears. The moment I realized arguing with them was useless, something in me clicked, like a quiet mechanical shift from hurt to strategy. If my parents could treat my education like a travel fund, I could treat them like a case study. I started collecting receipts. Every transaction, every statement, every message where they mentioned using a little from the account, I archived it. I downloaded monthly bank PDFs, took screenshots of their vacation posts with timestamps, and even dug up emails from when my grandparents first created the trust. That last part was key. The fund wasn't a casual savings account, it was a custodial trust set up under my name, meaning they were legally obligated to use it only for my benefit until I turned 18. I remembered my grandmother's voice years ago, "This is so she'll never have to worry, even if something happens to us." She'd said it proudly, unaware her son and daughter-in-law would treat it like a travel voucher. So I kept digging. One night, while my parents were asleep, I found an old manila folder in my dad's desk labeled Parker Education Fund. Inside were the original deposit slips, my grandparents' $10,000 check, my summer job contributions, even the forms from the bank confirming its restricted use. Right there, in black ink, was the clause that changed everything. Funds held in trust may not be withdrawn for purposes other than the beneficiary's direct educational needs. They had signed it. Both of them. My heart was pounding as I took pictures of every page. I wasn't sure what to do yet, but I knew this: they'd broken a legal promise, not just a moral one. The next morning, Mom asked why I was quiet over breakfast. I smiled faintly. "Just thinking about my future." She grinned, not catching the edge in my tone. "Good. Maybe that means you've come to your senses." Oh, I had. Just not in the way she hoped. From that day on, I started acting like the perfect daughter again, polite, helpful, cooperative. But underneath the calm, I was building a case. I didn't plan on revenge through shouting or guilt. No, that would be too easy for them to dismiss. I wanted something quieter, sharper, justice with paperwork attached. Because they'd taken my fund like it was a family favor. Soon, they'd learn what it feels like when that favor gets audited, with interest. The first rule of revenge: don't act angry, act informed. By now, my parents thought the storm had passed. I was back to smiling at dinner, helping around the house, and even offering to drive my brother to school. They believed my silence meant forgiveness. It didn't. It meant calculation. While they spent evenings watching travel vlogs and planning their next adventure, I was on my laptop, learning the language of trust law. I read everything: financial blogs, legal forums, even scanned PDFs written by estate attorneys. Half of it made my head hurt, but one detail kept popping up: custodial misuse of trust funds is considered breach of fiduciary duty. That wasn't just bad parenting, it was legally actionable. The more I read, the clearer the picture became. The college fund my grandparents had created wasn't under my parents' names, but under the Parker Family Education Trust, with my father as temporary custodian. And according to the documents I photographed, his custodianship ended when I turned 18. Meaning, once I hit that birthday, any withdrawal he made wasn't just family borrowing. It was fraudulent use of restricted funds. I needed confirmation. So I reached out to the only person I thought might still care about the original intent of the trust, my grandfather's lawyer, Mr. Whitaker. He'd handled the estate years ago, and I found his contact in an old email thread between him and my dad. I drafted a careful message. "Dear Mr. Whitaker, this is, name, granddaughter of George and Helen Parker. I have some questions regarding the custodial structure of my education trust. Could you please confirm whether the account remains legally bound to my name after age 18? He replied 2 days later. Short. Formal. Yes. As of your 18th birthday, you became the sole beneficiary and legal controller. No withdrawals should be made without your consent. I stared at that line for a full minute. Then I printed the email and added it to my growing folder labeled evidence. The next week, I met him in person. Mr. Whitaker was in his 70s, kind eyes, slow voice, but sharper than anyone I'd ever met. He listened as I explained what my parents had done. When I finished, he sighed and said quietly, "I suspected something like this might happen. Your father was always ambitious." He slid a paper across the desk, a copy of the original trust agreement, complete with notarized signatures. Then he looked up at me. "You have every right to demand full reimbursement, plus interest. If they refuse, the trust's administrator can initiate recovery proceedings." "Would that hurt them legally?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "It won't put them in jail, but it'll make them wish they'd saved their receipts." That night, I sat in my room surrounded by evidence, the documents, the statements, the email thread, and realized I had them cornered. All I needed now was a way to make them hand over the rest of the proof themselves. Because the most satisfying kind of justice isn't delivered by force, it's signed, dated, and self-incriminated. If there's one thing my parents loved more than vacations, it was paperwork that proved how together they looked. Brochures, receipts, framed itineraries, anything with a logo or a stamp that made their choices look deliberate and classy. I decided to give them exactly what they craved, paperwork with teeth. Step 1 was plausible. I found an obscure scholarship for incoming freshmen that covered living expenses, not tuition, but the application required one annoying thing: a parental affidavit verifying annual household contributions to the student's education, plus copies of any major transfers to educational accounts over the previous 24 months. The scholarship committee wanted transparency. I told my parents it was routine, that some programs were just being extra careful after cases of financial fraud. They nodded. They loved the sound of official procedures. It made them feel respectable. Step 2 was bait. I sent Mom a calm, rehearsed text at 9:12 a.m. "Hey, scholarship wants affidavit and parent bank statements from last 2 years. Can you email me PDFs of anything education related and sign the attached parental declaration? Deadline Friday. Thanks." She replied in 3 minutes with 3 heart emojis and, on it, "So proud of you," 2 hearts emoji. That tone, performative, eager, utterly unguarded, was the small thing I'd been waiting for. What I didn't tell them was the exact language I'd slipped into the affidavit. It read, bluntly: Parental affidavit. I, parent name, hereby certify that funds withdrawn from the Parker Family Education Trust between January 1, 20XX and December 31, 20XX were used solely for the educational expenses of beneficiary name, unless otherwise noted below. I understand that falsely declaring the use of trust funds may constitute breach of fiduciary duty. I formatted it like an institutional form: bold heading, official sounding lines, signature block, and a small note saying for verification, please attach original receipts of any withdrawals declared. They loved forms. They printed it, signed it in blue ink, and, because they were earnest performance artists, attached a stack of PDFs to an email within 24 hours. In the attachments, glossy photos from Santorini, the Princess Cruises invoice, passport stamps, and, crucially, the bank PDF statements showing the large outgoing transfers from the trust account. Each transfer carried the line transfer authorized by joint custodian, G. and L. Parker. In one email thread Mom wrote, casually, "Here are everything you need, love. Let me know if the scholarships ask for anything else." Receipts, check. Admissions, check. Signed affidavit explicitly stating the transfers, check. Email trail, check. But I didn't stop there. I needed something that tied their casual bragging to something legally meaningful. So I asked Dad, with the perfect blend of flattery and panic, to notarize the affidavit. I told him some programs want notarized parents, it makes it look official. He obliged. He actually took pride in the idea of notarized approval, it made the theft look legal in his mind. 2 weeks later, there it was, a notarized affidavit signed in blue ink, scanned and emailed to me, timestamped. In the footer of one of Mom's emails she'd written, "We used the education account for our trip, but we'll pay you back. You know parents make mistakes. We love you." It was casual, offhand, like a footnote. It was a confession. By the time I downloaded everything into my evidence folder, I had PDF number 1, Bank Statement, Parker Family Education Trust, Withdrawals 06/12/20XX, $12,000, Princess Cruises, 07/02/20XX, $8,700, Airfare, 08/10/20XX, $3,400, Santorini Villas. Transaction IDs included. PDF number 2, Notarized Parental Affidavit, signed G. Parker and L. Parker, notarization stamp from Petaluma Notary, Dated 08/15/20XX. PDF number 3, email chain from mom to me. Here are receipts with attached high-resolution photos, EXIF metadata, Santorini, 07/15/20XX. PDF number 4, trust agreement pages, clause use of funds, education expenses only, signatures of both parents and my grandparents. Screenshot number 1, mom's Facebook post, 2-month Europe trip. Hashtag we earned this, timestamp matched to bank transfers. Photo number 1, the manila folder from dad's desk. I'd already photographed it, with original deposit slips and the trustee's contact information. This wasn't just circumstantial. It was a tidy, incriminating narrative. They had authorized withdrawals, they had spent the money on vacation, they had notarized a statement acknowledging the transfers. Each item corroborated the others. Now I needed the final piece, an official demand. But I didn't want to be the squeaky kid threatening my parents. I wanted sanitation, legal cover, the weight of the trust administrator, and the slow, inevitable machinery of fiduciary enforcement. So I did what any reasonable person with a legalist streak would do. I booked an appointment with Mr. Whitaker, my grandfather's estate lawyer. I sent him a polite email with the subject line, request for intervention, Parker Family Education Trust, beneficiary claim. I attached a sanitized packet of the evidence but left out nothing of interest. Then I waited. When Mr. Whitaker called back, his voice was all business. He asked to meet in person. I handed him the bundle, the notarized affidavit, the bank statements, the Facebook post, and the trust agreement. He scanned each document with slow, professional care, his expression unreadable. Finally, he said 3 sentences that felt like the click of a lock closing. You did everything right. They admitted it in writing. The trust administrator will open a recovery proceeding. We'll request reimbursement of the withdrawn funds plus statutory interest. If they refuse, we file in civil court and petition the probate division to remove them as custodians. He leaned forward, frowning at the notarized affidavit. The notarization helps you more than you realize. That document is an admission by your parents. Legally, it's very strong. For the first time since graduation, I felt something like relief. Not because I wanted to ruin them for the sake of it, but because the ledger was being balanced and someone other than me was about to enforce it. They'd handed me the evidence themselves. All I had to do was turn it over to someone with the authority to act. I left Mr. Whitaker's office with 2 things, a formal letter of representation he would send to the trust administrator, and a single, cold thought that would carry me to the next step. They'd boasted, notarized, and emailed their guilt into my lap. Now the system would do what my parents refused to do themselves, make them pay back what belonged to me. The letter from Mr. Whitaker went out on a Monday. It was polite, concise, and devastating, 1 page, written on thick ivory paper that screamed authority. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Parker. Following a beneficiary review of the Parker Family Education Trust, it has come to our attention that several unauthorized withdrawals were made after the beneficiary reached the age of majority. In accordance with Section 5 of the Trust Agreement, we hereby request reimbursement of $82,000 plus statutory interest within 30 days. Failure to comply will result in civil recovery and removal as custodians. He copied the trust administrator and me. That night, my phone exploded. First Mom. Why did a lawyer send us this? What did you do? Then Dad, all caps. Do you have any idea what trouble you've started? For the first time in my life, their anger didn't scare me. I simply replied. I didn't start it. You did when you signed those withdrawal slips. By Wednesday, the cracks began to show. Dad's voice dropped from thunder to bargaining. We'll pay something, just not all at once. Mr. Whitaker replied with professional calm, payment plan accepted only after acknowledgement of breach and interest liability. Translation, admit you stole it, then we'll talk. They stalled, hoping it would go away, until the trust administrator froze their access to the remaining family accounts. No more tapping inheritance money to fund emergencies. Their credit cards were flagged for review, and the estate board was notified. I found out later that my grandfather's estate still held residual assets. Because of the breach, future disbursements were redirected to me as the only compliant beneficiary. The fallout wasn't just financial, it was social. My parents' curated world began to unravel. Their perfect family reputation didn't survive long once whispers spread at church and the local country club. One of Dad's colleagues, whose wife served on the trust board, told others apparently he stole his own kid's college fund. Mom tried to post another cheerful photo online, a throwback from Paris, with the caption "Memories keep us grounded." It got 2 pity likes. Meanwhile, I received a short email from Mr. Whitaker. Reimbursement confirmed. $82,000 plus 6.5% interest reinstated. Trust now managed directly under your name. I reread that line 10 times. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was the validation that I hadn't been crazy, dramatic, or ungrateful. I had been right. When I went home the next weekend, the house felt quieter, fewer lights, fewer laughs, and none of that performative cheer. Dad avoided my eyes. Mom tried to make small talk about dinner. I said gently, "Don't worry, I'll cover my own tuition now." She looked relieved for a moment, until I added, "Legally." The silence that followed was worth every sleepless night I'd spent planning. The Parker house had never been quiet. It used to buzz with noise, TVs blaring, my mom shouting for Evan to take out the trash, my dad yelling over speakerphone about some urgent deal. But after the letter, the noise died. The silence was heavy. Uncomfortable. Like the soundproofing you find in courtrooms. I stopped living there full time. My scholarship covered a dorm room, and I only came back on weekends to grab things. Every visit felt like walking into a museum of denial. The photo wall in the hallway still displayed our perfect family moments, graduations, holidays, my parents on cruise decks. None of the smiles looked real anymore. Then the rumors started. Mom's best friend accidentally let it slip at book club that the trust people had frozen the Parkers' accounts. Within a week, neighbors started whispering. My parents stopped going to church. Dad began working late, partly to avoid gossip, partly because his boss had quietly removed him from any project involving company finances. No one wanted to risk another oversight. Evan, of course, was furious. He stormed into my room one night, eyes red and voice shaking. "You couldn't just let it go, could you? You had to make them look like criminals." I kept my voice calm. "They are criminals, Evan. They stole." He scoffed. "It's just money. You got it back, didn't you? Now everyone treats us like trash because of you." I looked at him, really looked at him, the kid who'd never worked a weekend job, never worried about a bill. "Welcome to accountability," I said quietly. He slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. For weeks afterward, the house felt like a Cold War zone. Mom tried to pretend everything was fine. She cooked elaborate dinners no one touched. Dad walked around like a ghost, muttering about ungrateful children. I heard them fighting late one night. Mom's voice cracked. "You said she'd never find out. You told me to take it. You signed it too." They'd always been partners in performance. Now they were co-defendants turning on each other. Meanwhile, my grandparents' lawyer sent a follow-up notice confirming their removal as custodians from all remaining family trusts. Future inheritance? Gone. They'd lost everything they'd built their image around: money, credibility, and the illusion of moral superiority. When I visited one last time before moving fully to campus, Mom asked if I could help smooth things over. "People don't have to know all the details," she said, wringing her hands. "You could tell them it was a misunderstanding." I met her eyes. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Mom. It was theft. And I don't lie for thieves." She started to cry, but it wasn't guilt, it was humiliation. Losing the applause had broken her more than losing the money. As I left that night, Dad called after me. "You think you've won, but family doesn't forget betrayal." I turned at the door. "You're right," I said. "It doesn't." And I closed it behind me for good. It's strange how peace doesn't arrive with fanfare. It slips in quietly, like dawn light after a long storm. 6 months after the fallout, I was finally settling into college life. My dorm was tiny, the mattress squeaked, and the radiator hissed every night, but it was mine. My tuition was covered by a scholarship, and the reinstated trust fund now sat safely under my own name. For the first time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone my future. Sometimes I'd walk past the campus fountain on my way to class and think about how different things could have been. If I hadn't checked that bank account, if I'd believed the family money line, I'd still be stuck financing their mistakes. Instead, I was free, not rich, not spoiled, but free on my own terms. My parents never really recovered. They repaid the trust in installments, but their reputation never did. Most of their friends drifted away, tired of the drama. Evan transferred to a community college after his own scholarship fell through. The family name still carried weight, but not the kind they were used to. One evening, Mom called. Her voice was quieter now, no bragging, no pretense. "I hope you're doing well," she said. "I am," I replied. A pause. Then softly, "We didn't realize how much we hurt you." I didn't say, "Yes, you did." I just said, "I know." And that was enough. After we hung up, I sat by my dorm window watching students laugh outside. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I just felt done, like I'd closed a ledger that had been unbalanced for years. They taught me about responsibility, but not in the way they meant to. They taught me that love without accountability is just manipulation. That appearances can't replace trust. And that sometimes, doing the right thing means standing up to the people who raised you. I guess, in the end, I did make them proud, just not the way they imagined. Because while they spent my college fund chasing a fantasy, I used the truth to build a future they couldn't touch. And that, I realized, was the real education they'd paid for, mine.